All right, welcome to another episode of Authentic Journeys. I am your host, as always, Fahad Zaidi. For any of our first time listeners, Authentic Journeys is a podcast I started earlier this year that explores the themes of high performance and behavioral psychology. And so I have these conversations with business founders, influencers, basically anyone that's doing anything where they've built something from scratch to understand kind of the why behind what they do and talk about the experiences that have shaped them a little bit. Today, I'm joined by one of the founders, or I think the founder of Rise Investments, Bava. Bava, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Fahad. I'm so blessed and honored to be here and being in one of podcasts that I really look into basically on psychology and how you tap into people's why and how to get where they wanted to go. So thanks once again, Fahad. So I really appreciate it. Just a bit about myself. My name is Sarvana Bava Srinivasan, but shortened to Bava Srinivasan due to love the open words, and you know how it is. Yeah, basically, I'm the founder of Rice Investments. So Rice Investment is nothing but we invest in multifamily in East Coast, value add projects, buying apartment buildings, and then I'm into restaurant industry, and right now got into retirement homes as well. So that's where the journey is as of today, and looking forward for more entrepreneur business where I wanted to fail faster and then keep it going. So originally from India, South India, from a city called Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. Moved to Canada back in 2007 as a student for my undergrad electronics engineering. And then later on, it's been 18 years and it just feels like a dream to be here. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Why is it called Rise Investments? Why isn't it called, I don't know, Biryani Investments?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, Rice, basically, I think the logo, it goes with the saying, let's grow together, right? I always had a feeling of, coming from where we are and where we are today, we're all rising together. So, when I talked about, keeping different names with my name and initial, and this one kind of stood out, basically just to how I raised, I'm today because of how my parents raised me. And I think the foundation of that is basically what I wanted to put it as for the people who look at it and then be like, hey, I want to, rise together and sun rises, right? So there were a lot of ideology behind it, but that's why I put it rise, let's grow together. So that's the motto behind it. So
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about your origin, and you hinted there a little bit about your parents and how you were raised. So how do you think your childhood has shaped you into becoming an entrepreneur?
absolutely. I think the story from my side was basically my granddad. He comes from an entrepreneur background, but he started as a worker, in a factory, like a mill factory, and then that basically raw cotton. They take the raw cotton and then make it as a spinning, and that's how he wanted to start a business along with my dad. But my dad was basically into he wanted to he did diploma engineering and then he wanted to start his career and then go ahead. But my dad had pushed him to start his business, so that's how we started. So all my life when I was growing up, I think I'm so used to being in the factory, uh, you know, being driven by and like a different lifestyle, like a golden spoon lifestyle. But around I think grade 10 and 11 is where like a big shift happened in terms of the business was not going well, and little did they know my parents and grandparents. I mean, my dad and my granddad, they had a big loss of the business where it literally changed the life of pretty much like the well-being. Because when they started investing in the business rather than buying properties or creating assets, because that's the growth stage, right? Because they were doing really good, and then about trusting people. So there was a lot of lessons learned during that time. And then my dad had to start from scratch, like let's say around grade 10 to grade 12. So that was the biggest shift in my mindset of, hey, like when I grow up, I don't want to do the same mistake. But at the same time, that was the fire in me. It made me, go through and think like what they did. I wanted to keep my dad in the same CEO seat that he was sitting. Like I still remember like yesterday that I remember his room, my granddad's room in the office, in the factory where we were having around 800 people like workers, right? So it was a big factory, basically getting raw materials from Hyderabad and Telangana, and then it comes to South India, where we had the spinning mills, and then we sell it to different, let's say, industries, right? So that was the business model, and that was one of the biggest, let's say, why for me when I was growing up. And I said, once I made it in life, the fire in me was to do a business so that I can put my dad back in there. So that was
Mm.
like my go-to, like, okay, go, go, go. This is the stuff I wanted to do. But later on, we moved to a different city, and my dad tried different businesses because my mother's side of the family, they were in t-shirt businesses, right? So right now we're in a part of a t-shirt industry, like where Tirupur is. If people Google, they will know that's the cotton city of India. So whatever you see today from Nike, Walmart, Hanes, you name it, it's coming from Tirupur. So that's where everything starts and originates, right? So even Montreal, I live in Montreal, and there's a place called Sabanel where everything happens there. So long story short, so that's where the drive that in me put it in my head to really go ahead because I saw the big lifestyle change
Mm.
going from top to bottom and then going back up, right? So that was
Yeah.
like one of the biggest lesson that I would never change anything in again. So
You wanted to go back to the golden spoon. You didn't want to give it us.
no, I wanted to create the golden spoon so that
Yeah.
nobody has to go through this, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, putting it that
Interesting.
way. So yeah,
Tell me more about the lessons learned. You said, when you saw your dad go through what he's gone through, um, and you hinted a little bit about like they were investing everything back into the business and not doing anything else. Like, what are some of the hardest or biggest lessons you feel like you learned, and that you've applied, just kind of observing other people go through their journey, such as your dad or your grandfather?
absolutely. I think there's so much. I think thinking about it today, how I do partnership, I value partnership is based on like I think maybe subconsciously I've seen that, and then now it just become a part of me, right? The first thing is trust but verify,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then because like the one of the main reason, they got into that issue was they were leasing this factory and they wanted to buy the factory. So what they did is when they leased the factory and they saved up money and they got some bank loan, and then when they went to the seller, the guy who was leasing it from, they gave the cash without even any paperwork, assuming that okay tomorrow we'll go give the paperwork, and that guy was doing finance for his living. So, and the next day when the guy said, no, you don't give me any money, right? So it's basically like just out the door, right? So that's one of the biggest thing, trust but verify. And then diversify when you're making when you're actually having good cash flow and solid business, diversify it at the same time, invest in it. So I wouldn't go full on. That's one of the reasons why I do, multiple steps to diversify it, right? So some of the biggest learns I do and partnership. So I value so much in partnership. Like today, if let's say I partner with somebody, even as an investor who's investing in our deals or partnership, I do personality tests, right? And then I wanted to know what I'm working with because of course if you meet, we go for lunches, dinners, it's going to be amazing. But I wanted to know how do you act on it when things don't go right. High
Mm-hmm.
likely it will go right. I'm not going to say and show you and tell that hey everything is going to be amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to act when things are not right? So those are some things that I wanted to pick on. And what are the values? I tell them to share their values. And if that's like going towards us, then we're gonna make together. If not, I'll just politely say that I don't think that's gonna work. Right? Those
Mm-hmm.
are some of the things that are key in me that before getting into the partnership, and I feel everybody leaves a clue. If you're open to it, you would know it. Like
Mm-hmm.
right from how they're responding to your text, or if they're late, they're telling something. Like everybody has a way of doing things. If somebody's doing one thing, that's how they're gonna do everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the stuff that built it along the way, and then learning from other people what went wrong in their partnership so that I learned from it, right? So ideology, like
Hmm.
by psychology, I think if one person was desperate, I think highly likely, you're gonna get into bed together. Let's say if somebody has a deal, somebody has money. If one of them was desperate, you're gonna get into it. But unless you don't align to it, then it's gonna go long term. So my ideology towards is that's nothing short term. It's long term or no term.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
And talk to me about, one thing that comes to mind is based on how you react to stuff, it kind of dictates your next set of actions, right? And so
Hmm.
there's probably millions of people, hundreds of millions of people that have been in your shoes, watching a loved one, family member, your dad in this case, go through some hard times. And there's
Absolutely.
there's probably more people that run away from starting a business when they see what can go wrong, right?
Yep.
When you kind of, including the business owner, like there's probably lots of
100%.
first
Yep.
time founders that stay first time founders because something doesn't work and then they kind of don't go back. They don't go back to battle. They don't go back into the ring. And so, what do you think makes you unique in the fact that you saw something happen? You saw basically a risk kind of come to life, and
Hmm.
it made you work even harder to like start something versus go, you know what? I've seen business, I've seen it go wrong, I'm not going to do it. Like, what is it about you, do you think, that made you kind of get back into the ring versus kind of shy away from it or even like run away from it?
Right. No, I think it's a great question with analogy, right? But the way that I looked at it is, you know, like how much are you working together? From the get-go, like I was always only seeing good things in everything. I think maybe that's my personality, right? Like even when like I was a child and like I never used to complain, right? I always saw like if let's say somebody hated a guy in a school, right? I would just go be friends with him. I would only see the good things out of this guy, right? I would always be friends with everybody. I was this guy like who wants to be friends with everybody because I was only able to see like no matter what bad they did, like according to whatever reason, I can only see okay, there's a reason behind this guy is doing something. Maybe that was one of the best things that had like as a personality that helped me to look at stuff differently rather than taking it. I usually, especially on the business side, I don't react. I act on it, right? I think it's just one of the stuff that I built it along the way, right? Yes, of course I get disappointments. Of course, I go through stuff and things don't go in my way. But instead of like reacting on it, then I act on it because like on a day-to-day basis, I deal with a lot of contractors, tenants, whatnot, right? So those are something that I don't have control. The only thing I have control is how I act on it rather than reacting, right? So that's like a big thing. And then another thing I always tell myself is I want to fail faster so that I'm going to learn and then move faster,
Mhm.
right? Instead of rather saying, hey, I don't want to fail, which means like high likely, failure, however you want to take it, right? So for some people, like, they choose not to see failure. They'll say, okay, I learned from it or move on. Or some people take it really, really hard into it and say, oh my God, I failed. I don't know what to do. And then it goes back to, I think, the mindset of if you always try to work on yourself in terms of reading books or looking at things differently, like if it could be spiritual or whatever it may be, like you take a book for somebody that who has already done so many stuff or who failed so many times, and you learn something from them eventually, right? And that has to be constant when things
Mhm.
like actually don't go your way. I feel that's the time you have to double down on you to make it things to go in your way.
And so,
I,
what
I
are some of
really feel
those?
that.
What do you think for you? Like, what are some of those books or inspirations? Like over the years, like where have you looked to kind of learn from others or get inspired by others? That's helped you kind of develop and stay consistent with this mindset, this like Mamba mentality.
Right. I think I would say around let's say 2018 or 2017 is kind of my rebirth in a way
Hmm.
where I really started doubling down on having a like a hardcore routine like after reading 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, right? So I used to be really, really thorough on that. And then I doubled down on, because me, I'm more like a guy, if I wanted to learn something, I implement it right away, right? So I did the 5 a.m. club. I did the Wim Hof cold shower, right? And then cold shower method, tried to go to the gym. And then I was very rigid on, meditating and reading books. It could be all types of books, right? Right from finance, personal development, and spirituality. So those were something that I was very rigid on doing stuff, even though when I'd never built any of those. So, but I was constantly working on myself. Like I used to go to Toastmaster class, like all kinds of stuff. When at that time I was trying to explore everything. At that I didn't have anything at that point, right? So till today, I try to take time to listen to podcasts and do my routine, go to the gym. I think that one thing that will never change ever, because the more you learn, the more you earn. So, and the people that I meet, I always, ask about, psychology books. And now once you meet a lot of people, I really like Psycho-Cybernetics. There's another book that I recommend people to read. And there are so many books out there, right? So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, but you can go back and read so many times, E Square, EQ. Like, there are so many books that, that could every time you grow, like you feel like you're growing, you go read it and you have a different perspective. So yeah, those are some of the books that I read. Sometimes I read it over and over again. So
Interesting. You mentioned a little bit about rebirth. Like what was going on in your life you feel like that made you want to be reborn? And like what do you think was the necessity behind it?
I think so. Your video got stuck there.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
your video is still stuck. I don't know whether it's this. Can you see my video moving or?
Yeah, I can see you fine.
But yours is just stuck as long. Okay, yeah. Now
One
it's back
sec.
up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So when I meant rebirth, I feel at one point I was like stuck in terms of, you know, where I didn't know what is my next step are, because I just moved to a new city, and I really like, achieved what I wanted to achieve, let's say in the corporate world, right? And then I was kind of like, okay, what's next? Right? So that's why I felt I was stuck in a way of, hey, I have all these goals, but I know where I'm going. So that's how I started digging deep into myself, right? Because I just moved to another city because I used to live in Halifax for 10 years, and then I moved to Montreal. So that's where back then my wife was going to university for masters, and I had to like rebuild the network as completely brand new, and that made me realize a lot of stuff, right? And like once I achieved, let's say whatever I meant to be in the corporate world, and then I felt like, okay, I don't think so. There's like I feel stuck in a way because I don't feel like I was growing, and that's how it started. Looking into joining different personal development groups, digging more deep into like, hey, what's my potential? What can I do? Because until then, I think it was more on I was trying different businesses, but it was more like consumer mindset, but it was
Yeah.
not an investor mindset. And then I had to like really, come out of, learn, start investing in houses, then got stuck, and then started into apartment building. So I think that was the phase where, if you're not growing, you're dying. Like really, when people say that, I never meant it, and then I felt it when during that time, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that was the
Interesting.
pivotal journey. Yeah.
And as you've gone on that journey, like has there ever been a time where you almost quit and kind of went back to corporate, or you felt like it wasn't for you, or maybe like some of the more dark moments? Like what's been some of the hardest stuff you've had to go through that really tested your mindset and willpower kind of overall in this journey?
I I think the willpower along those time, I mean, I still have my corporate, right? I still do my corporate along with other businesses, right? Because I think a lot of people do business getting out of the corporate because they hate the 9 to 5. But me, it was opposite. I was really enjoying it because the common factor between all the jobs and business I do is people. I love people, right? I'm in sales. I do product sales. I had the product for one of the regions in Americas, and all the business, restaurant industry, real estate, retirement homes is people. So like I love what I'm doing. So which never felt like before I had that pivotal journey, like even the job that I was doing was more on the technical side, which I really didn't enjoy. Then once it started opening up, then everything started opening up. It was a floodgate. So during those times, the willpower was like I always felt like I'm gonna make it, right? Like no matter
Mm-hmm.
when things were not even happening in my way, but I never gave up on the routine. Like 5 o'clock to 5 o'clock, right? And I was very, very hard on that. Like let's say for a few years. And before when things were happening, like I knew it's gonna happen. Like my body was feeling it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I wanted to change and whatnot. I think that willpower helped me to realize. I think all my life along those ways, every single time, that willpower helped me. Like even small little things. In university, I used to be very like chubby, and I went to gym and I reduced it. Then like during when I started the corporate world, and then I told myself, if I can do that, I can do anything else. Then that made me realize, okay, I'm going to study different certifications to enhance myself. And then even though I'm not good at it, I'm going to learn from it. So that each small step of my way helped me to learn something that, okay, like the best thing was the health thing. If I can do this, I can do anything else. And then I started real estate. Then if I can do this, I can do anything else, right? So that's how it gave me the power of like always getting stuff done, even though when things don't go in my way, because I feel like God or universe gives you stuff that only you can handle. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then talk to me about sacrifice. Like, what sacrifices have you had to make along the way, to either kind
Um,
of stay on this journey or kind of accomplish some of the goals that you've been going after?
I think right from university, I used to work 3, 4 jobs, right? Like I used to do pizza delivery. I used to work in a call center. I was the international president, and during those times, I just, for some reason, I always felt like I was having fun all the time, right? Sacrifices in the sense, like, I don't see that as, okay, like, I'm not gonna go with my friends because of this. Because I used to do pizza delivery until 3 a.m. and my friends would be partying at home. And then I would come and
Mm-hmm.
join. And then I felt like I'm not missing it, right? So, like, I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
found a balance right from the get-go where I don't feel like I'm missing out, and I try to balance that of. I think that's one of the reason I was able to grow in my own way because of I was always balancing it out. Because I would never say that, hey, I'm not going out with you because of this reason. I'll just go, I won't, let's say, party or whatnot. I'll just go do my thing for like let's say 45 minutes an hour, and then I would come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are some things that I felt that I was balancing right from the get-go that helped me to, kind of even make it work harder in a way in terms of, okay, I don't have to miss out to get something, right? I think that analogy was kind of like, I would still go play sports and whatnot, right? So those are some things that I did where I'm more intentional about, doing one thing rather than doing multiple things, right? Just because I have to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think sacrifices was mostly I don't think so. Like thinking back about it, I never felt like okay, these are some of the sacrifices I did to get where I wanted to, right? So that view of thinking was like maybe right from the university I did it. And I used to work 3 jobs. People look at me and be like, man, like you're doing 3 jobs. How can you do this and whatnot? But for me, I was just having fun, right? It was just meeting people, doing whatever. I said I'm getting paid for driving my car, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So those were like right from the get-go, like I never thought about like complaining. I've never used to complain. Be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like I'm having not enough sleep or whatnot, right? So yeah,
Yeah. And where do you think you get that from? Like, was it like has it always been like that, or
I
was
think it's the drive. I think it's the drive that like right from the get-go, like where I wanted to like really put my dad, whatever. I think that was like, like stuck in me saying that until you do that, you can't. But even though like he's fine, right? Like, we're doing fine and whatnot, but maybe that was the thing that put it in me that
it?
like that created that, let's say, shield that maybe do it, right? And every time like, I'm doing something, if I feel hard time, and I always tell myself this is just temporary. Whatever I'm going through is just temporary. And I always tell myself if it was easy, you would do it. Like if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So like every time, even like, when I was 19, I was uh like when I went to undergrad, I was working in a restaurant. And then when I wiped the table, and I told myself in the restaurant that one day I'm going to own it, but this is just temporary. I got to do what I got to do to
Hmm.
make things happen. But and that's why I was, telling myself always, like talking to the inner voice about, stuff, like saying that, okay, this is just temporary, right? So I got to do what I got to do to get where I want it. So those are some of the steps, like even till today, I tell myself, right? When things don't go in their way, it's like, hey, this is just a part of the process. You have to go
Hmm.
through this to learn. And then sometimes I write down and think why I feel this way, right?
Hmm.
And then go deep down and really feel that, okay, maybe I'm not confident, or maybe, the deal's just not the way that I wanted, or the partners, right? So there's always answer. Don't look for outside, it's within you, I think. So,
Hmm. And then how do you, this is really interesting, like how do you balance that like long-term mindset um, with trying to grow really fast, especially in the early days, right? Like when it's super, like right now, you probably have much more foundation, right? And you can
yeah,
probably
yeah.
make a lot of more, you could probably almost have the privilege of like making much more kind of long-term bets or long-term decisions and saying no to some like
Hmm.
short-term stuff. So how do you like, especially when it was like early days, like how do you kind of stay balanced between like values-based partnerships, principle-based decisions versus and like needing to eat tomorrow, right? Like in
Right, right.
metaphorically, like how do you kind of how do you say no to some short-term stuff when the short-term stuff is like all you have?
Okay,
And there's maybe more benefits to the long term, but like it's long term, like it's gonna take a
right.
while. Like how do you
Yeah.
kind of and especially like with being a business owner, like there's other people that depending on you. Like uh, how do you kind of maintain that balance, especially in the early days?
No, I think it's a very good question. So that's why I feel like, people should have mentors, right? And I learned this from my mentor, especially in the apartment building investing, right? Because like, you have to really categorize into three, let's say, verticals, right? One is lifestyle, one is cash flow, and then other one is long term, home run.
Hmm.
So home run is nothing but long term. You invest right from the get go for 5 years from now, and you know that you're gonna keep this property for or building for 30 years, right? So at that point, the amount of time that you're gonna put is long term, right? Right from the get go, that's where we're looking at. There's no get rich quick scheme, right? Especially on the home run, and the next comes the lifestyle. And these are some of the stuff that you invest, and then you try to get something on the business model, right? Not as a cash flow per month. So that's how the cash flow comes in. So then you go to a strategy where you invest in cash flow. So those were something that we were really, really, right from the get-go, we were thinking about it and then doing stuff in that way, right?
Hmm.
If I didn't hire a mentor, I would have not known this, right? So I do have
Hmm.
mentors for like how to invest in apartment buildings and whatnot. So, and then how risk averse are you, right? So, like, especially on the cash flow, let's say you want to make money within a month or 2 months, and that's where you go get into flips, especially if in real estate, right? And you have to know, like, nobody can time the market, but you have to be at least calculated based on getting in there. You might see so many people online making so much money on flips, but I see the other side. I saw the other side where people are going crazy. They went on bankruptcy. They did poor flips, over leveraged. People don't talk about it, right? So these are some of the stuff that you have to be very careful. If, let's say you do four flips and the market is down, you couldn't do it because I've seen that in person with people, right? So that's why you categorize your strategy based on the three, and then you work towards it. I think that really, really helped us right from the get go for us to really focus on that balance of because we do wholesaling too, right? And we have a target of, let's say, 5 wholesales per year, and we don't, and learning to say no for the things that doesn't fit in your strategy. That's something we learned right from the get go. Just because a deal is coming, it doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Hmm.
And I think the best thing I learned is the best deals are the ones that you don't do, right? So because
Hmm.
you try to get you get into FOMO of missing out, and then you try to get in. You feel like you want to do it. If something is too good to be true, it won't even be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this really helped us to, stay focused on, okay, these are long-term projects, which is, home run. And then we always do something for the cash flow, which is we have student rentals that comes cash flow every month, and then room rentals. And then we have something for the lifestyle, which is, based on different strategies. So that's how we categorize it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm curious, what was happening before the mentor? Like, what led you to kind of realizing that you needed a mentor and the value behind
100%.
it?
100%. So I was stuck in a way because me, I would never had a view of, I was like, I can learn everything from YouTube University, right? So I was like, why I'm gonna pay X number of dollars? Like, oh my God, that money to go and learn, and because I was I was not open to it at the beginning, right? So it was just basically me and my wife, we started investing, and then we got to a point where like we couldn't get any loans anymore because we were tapped out, right, on
Hmm.
both the sides. So, and then I was like, okay, what is the next logical step? So, because we reached to a point where we couldn't buy any houses, so we started investing in houses in Montreal. And then that's how I started getting into different meetup groups that are real estate. And then I went and talked about my stuff, right? If you don't ask, you don't get it. So I went and told that, hey, like, I'm looking for this. We're stuck. We don't know what to do. So during those times, I was always listening to podcasts, like real estate podcasts, Canadian real estate podcasts, and whatnot. And then one person in there told me that, hey, I have a mentor for multifamily investing. And at that point, I was looking for different mentors to join. So all the mentors that, I was talking to them, they were not doing stuff. They were just selling courses. They were not
Hmm.
actually doing deals. So you know how it is. Like there were
Yep.
so many mentors out there where they were just doubling down on making money on the course rather than doing deals themselves. And these
Hmm.
most of the people I saw was telling how to buy houses and flips
Hmm.
and whatnot. And I couldn't find anybody who was doing apartment building. So after listening to this podcast, so I always have a habit of right from the get-go, if I listen to a podcast, I would send a DM to them saying what I learned and how thankful I am. High likely I don't get a response, which is okay. Everybody's busy, whatnot, but my way of thanking them is that. And I told this guy what I learned, and then he was like, yeah, he responded. And I was like, cool, man, thanks for responding. And do you know who's your mentor? And then he had put in touch with my mentor. And before that, I was talking to so many people, and I didn't just feel the vibe, my gut feeling was not feeling right. And when I talked to the mentor, and he was like, yeah, this is the guy. And I love the Buddha quote. It says, when the student is ready, teacher appears, right? So I
Hmm.
think that kind of helped me to really get into about like, investing in apartment building. You don't need that much money to do it. You could literally, it changes your whole mindset of how to raise money, how to think about money, how to go pitch to an investor, and how to really think about all this. So that
Hmm.
really, really helped my game. So
And how did your strategy turn into, first of all, I'm curious why real estate? Because it's very different than kind of the businesses you saw growing up. And so
yep.
what was it about real estate that attracted you to it? And why apartment buildings? Why not houses? Why not something else? Like how did you kind of narrow in on those two things?
Okay. I think when we started getting into like buying single families, it was basically like when we did the first one, it was like wow, amazing, crazy, right? Like it goes back to the story of like back me and my wife, we were renting downtown Montreal, and then we wanted to buy a place like a little bit suburb, like let's say 15 minutes from the city, and like before that during university I was working a lot of jobs. So me usually like I don't go look for jobs, I create my own job in a way. So I usually like on the weekends I had time, so I used to call realtors and then be like, hey, I know you're doing a showing, like you just come and sit there from morning till evening. I'm gonna do the same thing, pay me $100 cash, and I'm gonna sit in the house. I'll be in my laptop. I'll get your lead, and then I'll open the door, close the door, and then do a tour. So I did that, and then I really enjoyed it. I was like, hey, this is nice. I like seeing about houses. Then it made me talk to developers, realtors a lot. So that kind of like had my curiosity. I didn't know that I would get into it back then. And when we were planning to buy the first home, like for us to live in. So like my wife is from Chennai and she's used to, a lot of people outside, like, it's more people. That's why we live in downtown, right? So when we started investing in suburb, so we put an offer, we wanted to buy it. And then one evening we went for a drive and then she was like, hey, nobody's walking here. Like it's dark. I don't know whether we're gonna live. So, and then we were
Mhm.
supposed to move 3 weeks from there. So I said, okay, we'll find a way. So that night I came, I posted an ad on Kijiji Marketplace that we wanted to rent. So I called my realtor and I told, can you get 2 days of visits that weekend from the owner, current owner? She said, no problem. So I posted, I did an open house. I came, I saw a few people, and then we locked somebody in that weekend. And then from the month that we were closing, I was like little math I did, property tax, pool tax, insurance, mortgage, and I was making $350 cash flow on the first property. So I rented, like with that, I looked at how much they're renting. And then the realtor was like, no, no, it's too much. I said, all they're going to say is no, or are they going to negotiate? I want people to do that. Just because somebody's saying I'm not going to put it. So I was like that right from the get go. And then they rented. And then I was making 350 cash flow. And then I was like, hey, this cash flow is helping me to pay my car payment. So why don't I do it again and again? So that's how I got into it. And right after that, going to different areas, finding about like, secondary market. Then once we reached a certain stage, we got stuck. Then I started investing out of province as a trial. Being in Montreal, how do I do business in New Brunswick? So then I bought a student rental. So I started building up a team, like everything over the phone. And that gave me more confidence. I was like, it's either a hit or a miss. I'm going to try this. If it's going to work, it's going to work. So I did that. That gave me more confidence on the next level, right? And so I got stuck and we couldn't find anything because it's personal. Then I went to apartment buildings after knowing about it's one roof. If let's say if it's 5 buildings or 50 units or 100 units, it's still one roof. And then that blew my mind when I heard about it. Because
Hmm.
here, if one roof is one apartment, if one tenant doesn't pay the bill, I gotta put my money. If I'm having a 15 unit, if two people doesn't pay the bill, I have 13 people paying the rent. So no matter what, it's even 50% occupancy rate, I'm still not putting money out of my pocket. So that
Hmm.
really, really turned my perspective, right? And then I was like, okay, somebody's helping me pay my mortgage, rent, and then I'm making a cash flow out of it. And then every 3 years, if I do a refi based on like basic average, or even go 5 years, right? Because before I got in, I told myself for 10 years I'm going to buy one house, and it's going to be 10 houses, and then every 11th year I'm going to refi on the first house that I bought.
Hmm.
So then I would literally like be happy and I don't want to do anything. But now after think like when I went to multifamily, then it even blew my mind, right? Because like the market doesn't define apartment buildings, the net operating income defines it. Like it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what market it is. So if you go in, you renovate it, you increase the rent, that increases the net operating income, and that increases the value of the building. It's plain simple.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be like, hey, I don't know, it's 2025, the market, like nothing would change, right? It's based on how much money you're making each apartment building and each apartment, and that will increase the value. So that's how, banks looked at it, all the commercial looks at it. So that was like, wow. So like no market will decide this. It's just, it decides itself.
Hmm.
So those were some of the key areas. I was like, this is something that you put it in, it's like you don't have to do anything. It's just going to do itself, right?
Hmm.
So those are something that really changed the perspective.
And what about the flip side? Like, have you learned stuff about operating like this that maybe you didn't know? That's maybe it was like hidden or like some of the hard stuff about kind of the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, so some of the hidden stuff are working with contractors,
Hmm.
right? And even like, because you learn, you hear so much horror stories, even when you're in that city, right? Like I've heard people go through cases that they paid let's say for a rental quote of 200K, somebody paid 100K, they didn't even do anything, and then
Hmm.
going after the court, and then they send pictures randomly and send it, but they never did any work, right?
Hmm.
How do you vet those people, right? You can try your best, but I don't think so you can vet as much as you can, right? So, those are some of the stuff that I learned from people that, hey, if let's say a contractor says he did the job, like go to the job and see, right? For example, he's showing you pictures, get the references, call a few people, and then get it. Those are some of the stuff you can do. But that's the stuff that you do your diligence, and then even then after stuff happens, then you can do anything about it. The only way is just the due diligence, right? And then so that's how like when we started investing outside, this is what I did. So I talked to a few investors. Like I started interviewing people, then they interview me, right? Because I wanted to work with people who are like my A team. The realtor has to be an investor focused, the property manager and the lawyers and the renovation company has to be a part of like investing group or some through references. So I joined local groups in that city, and then I talked to as much as many people. And if it's a secondary or tertiary market, highly likely everybody knows everybody, right? And the word gets out faster. And if you're too good, you will know. If you're too bad, you will know faster too.
Hmm.
So those are some of the stuff that you need to do your due diligence before getting in, which we did. And now we are a part of, we are at the point where like this property manager we had it, and now he's a part of our team. So we bought the company, and they do renovations because we are the top guys. And then now we do projects based on that too. So we do renovations for them. So those are some of the stuff that I learned. That's why like being in a let's say investing group or a mentor, you can like let's say whatever I want to do in 8 years, I did it in 3 years because of the mentor, because of the people that who already went through that experience, and then they'll give you a blueprint of hey, do this, do that. So it's gonna help you by
Hmm.
saving money, whatever, through experience. So
And what's your end game? Like what you want to like own half of Canada or sell sell to BlackRock?
no, no, I mean it's it always keeps changing. I think the end game. I think right now it's just probably I want to learn a few other things that in the pipeline. Because once you figure out like there's a free flow, right, that happens. Because like right now we're just buying and holding, and then we just got into new development. We're
Hmm.
building single families, no Scotia. And then I want to try different stuff. Like maybe that's the thing that I really enjoy, especially real estate and other businesses. Until I do it, I wouldn't know if I enjoy it, right? So it's something that and then I tell myself, the more faster I fail, it's easier for me to move on and do and say like this is something that I would learn or not, right? So
Hmm.
so far I don't have an end game. I think just keep going, eventually, get into investing in Dubai and India too. So
Nice.
those are something that, I want to do and these 4 months here in Canada, 4 months in Dubai, and 4 months in India. So that's the ideal for now,
Hmm.
which is the best timing, right? So that's something that I'm working towards right now. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And from the outside looking in, what do you think is misunderstood about the stuff that you do? Like, what are some things that like maybe people have perceptions about that you feel like is completely different about your journey so far?
I think everything is easy, right? Probably like when they look at it, because me like I try to share not just the wins, but like how much deal I missed,
Hmm.
right? If you go through my profile, you will see that hey, I would have some posts talking about we missed a deal and how do I feel about it, right? There are so many deals like people only see what I did, but like I wanted to show them that this is a part of the process, right? And I think that perspective is what I wanted to learn because like a lot of people have a different perspective of hey, success is about just having those, right? But success is something that when things don't go work your way, how do you work it your way after, right? Getting back up and doing that stuff. Those things that I really wanted to, share, and people think that it's easy. Like it was funny that when you asked this, I was talking to another friend and he was telling that hey, everybody wants to be Elon Musk, but they don't want to know how he's working, right? They don't want to know like how much work he's putting, right? Like he's sleeping 4 hours, 4 hours a day, like but everybody envies the life. But are you really wanted to like put in the work? Then that's a different story. And then there's
Hmm.
another thing that my mentor told me is um, leave up to people's perspective. If let's say you take a picture with the car, right? Let's say it's a Porsche 911, and it's up to people's perspective if they wanted to know that whether you bought the car or you took a picture with another car or you just
Hmm.
posted a picture to show off that it's all people's perspective. Let them decide what they want to decide, right?
Hmm.
I think I leave it that and just he's like just keep doing the work and let people decide what they want to decide. So your
Nice.
work is just do it, and I feel that's that what I would do. So.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, is that red Porsche yours or is it somebody else's? Posted.
Yeah, so that was actually my friends. We met for like at my restaurant, and that's my dream car too. And I was like, man, that thing was so good, the sound and
Hmm.
everything. I was like, yeah, it was really nice. It's 1 year. I think he bought it last year. So
Yeah, it looks pretty
yeah,
new.
yeah.
And how do you think your definition of success has changed over the years? Like what was, talk me through what you thought success would be 10 years ago and what is it now?
I think the best example that I had was, when I was 25, I wanted to get a Range Rover, and then I got it. And then after 2 days, I felt like, is it why, is this all about? Like, is this why I was just like making a big deal about me, like doing this and that? I think that really, really like burst my bubble about things, right? And then that like
Hmm.
really put perspective. I think that was one of the biggest things that happened to me. I think, and then I had it for a year. I was leasing the car, and then I gave it, right? But
Hmm.
it was just like that was like the biggest aha moment for me. I think having that time, like what I realized was, hey, like it just looks like it. I think that's how everything will life look that way. Because until you achieve it, then once you achieve it, it's just like that's it. And
Hmm.
then along the ways, monitor value, like have a goal and keep it. But not right now, I think like really, really, I feel it is if I'm just waking up in a good mood, right? And if I try to do small little things, like if I want to spend time with the family, like with my daughter, and like able to do stuff that what I want to do, I can just go and like pick up her in the daycare whenever I want, and then take her for a drive. Like I don't need like external factors deciding what I'm doing, and
Hmm.
everything else is a bonus. I feel like I think that's
Hmm.
over the years. I never thought I would feel this way, but now it's just whatever it is, like owning the time and deciding who I
Hmm.
want to spend time with. Like before, I feel like I was caught up in that, like I have to do certain things to look certain way, but now it's just like just doing what I want when I want, how I want it, and
Hmm.
like doubling it down on like really stuff that I really connect with. So
Hmm.
I think that's what like the word looks like to me right now. So
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I get the urge once in a while to like I have a Honda Accord and once in a while I'm
yeah,
like, man, I should trade it in and get an Acura or get a Lexus. Life is
yeah,
short. Shouldn't save for something. I should just get it now. And then lately I've just been thinking I'm like whatever I do, like whatever I trade it in for, it's gonna have a steering wheel, it's gonna have CarPlay, it's gonna have a gear, like it's not gonna be that different. You know what I mean? Like, and especially
yeah.
nowadays, like everything is a screen.
Everything is
Like at least,
even more like way better. Yeah,
yeah. So like, what's the point? Um,
yeah.
and this is more of a this. I feel like this next question is very psychological. It's actually it's
Mm,
actually like a psychology tactic.
mm-hmm,
Um, if I were to wave a magic wand and the guy that landed in Canada, Bava, the
mm-hmm.
guy, like literally the kid that landed here, that guy came in front of you. What advice would you give that person?
I think I would really start reading books right from young age, right, about finances, money, mindset. I think that would have shaped me like even more,
Hmm.
and I would, you know, hang out with people that I look up to. Because the
Hmm.
only difference that was basically when I was growing up, I was doing much more like different businesses, jobs, and all this stuff. So my circle was looking up to me. I didn't have anybody to look up to. So that I think that was one of the stuff that I feel that I missed. And I would have hired a mentor like right from the get go. I would have never think about paying the dollars for like learning from the experience. I think that's
Hmm.
the one thing that I would change looking back. If I had that magic wand
Hmm.
right from the get go, because I've seen like guys who are that age, 18, 19, and who are doing that today. And then
Hmm.
I was like, wow, this is this is amazing, you know. So
And what would you tell Bava that just landed here, that same guy, same kid? What would you tell him to absolutely not do?
absolutely not do would be not just blindly, you know, trust people, just verify, like verify before, because like
Hmm.
we get caught up so much on emotions and like because when you miss something, you try to if you receive it from somebody, you just go down on it because people are always people. I think the biggest thing I would say is trust but verify. Like that one thing that it's
Hmm.
really really important because it will take a toll on you for sure. If let's say you're not emotionally, um, let's say intelligent or like dealing with it, especially on business personal level, then it's gonna take toll on you and it's gonna take hard time for you to get up. So trust
Hmm.
but verify. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I would tell. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on and interacting with my audience for a little bit. I really enjoyed this. It felt super natural. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, running all these different things and doing even more stuff than I thought you were doing. Like it's
No, no,
really,
it's all
really
good.
incredible
No,
and really amazing.
this timing is perfect because it's everybody's sleeping. You're just in a Zen mode because we have,
Yeah.
it's almost 11 p.m., right? So no, so I really appreciate your time. I think you're such a, it doesn't even look like a podcast. I feel like I was just hanging out with you in a coffee shop, right? So I think
Hmm.
that's your, let's say, superpower by bringing the best in people, like just by asking those questions and then making it very super cool, right? So keep doing what
Hmm.
you're doing, Fagad. I really enjoy it. So, thanks again for giving this opportunity.
Oh,
I think it got cut off. Hey, can you hear me? I think it got. Can you hear me now?